Welcome to Drinkin Bros, presented by GhostBed.com.
Welcome to Drinkin Bros. Actually, we're off today. We weren't going to do a show today. We typically do shows Monday through Saturday, and Fake News is our show today. But since today is 9/11, a bunch of you have reached out and shared your stories and asked if we were going live on YouTube today. So we are. And we're here today. You know, there's something odd about 9/11 every single year, looking back at it, where you always remember where you were, obviously, as an individual, but it's also cool to hear the stories of some of these people who were involved when the buildings, you know, the tower started to go down, or the people on the plane, and unknown stories and things like that. Because, you know, when a massive event like 9/11 happens, which is very rare, you know, thousands of people are affected, and you don't necessarily get to hear all of their stories at the same time. I was reminded of that today when I woke up. My wife and I usually have the Today Show on in the background, or Good Morning America or something like that. And one of the most interesting stories I saw today that I hadn't heard was a documentary that's about to come out about the children that were in that class that day with George Bush.
And they're all grown up now.
They are. They're all grown up now, and a documentary filmmaker actually got them all back together, including the teacher, to kind of recollect, you know, their memories and all that stuff. And it was unbelievably fascinating to hear, where I was like, man, we all remember that image of the Secret Service guy or whoever that was who came in and whispered to George Bush when he was reading in that class full of children, and the look in his eyes and the look on his face when it was whispered to him that our country was under a terrorist attack. Right. Well, one of the stories with them is like, dude, I didn't know what happened to the teacher. I didn't know what happened to the kids. Me having kids of my own now, especially one of that age that was in that classroom. What a wild thing looking back at it, of like, first of all, what do you tell your kids that are that young? They were in the school, that they were in that classroom that day, and then they were in the school, in the auditorium, where Bush had to make that announcement to the world, because they replayed that this morning. And what a heavy thing for, like, you know, 6 and 7-year-olds to deal with during all of that. They had the teacher on the show today. She's a part of the documentary as well, and she was you know, kind of recalling her memories of what happened that day. And she was like, look, we were all excited for the president to be there of the United States, and he was going to read with the kids. And then after, you know, he found out what had happened, she was like, you could see the blood drain from his face, and he was totally checked out and in another place, you know. And he goes, she said the vibe of the entire room and mood changed. And she was like, look, I was a teacher, so obviously I had to keep going. Right. And then, you know, we found out later what had happened, but there's thousands of stories like that out there from that day that even, you know, close to 20 years later, we're finally starting to hear about and learn and be like, oh, shit, man, I forgot about that. Yeah, I mean, what were those kids thinking?
When is that coming out?
They've been working on it for the last 2 years. I want to say next year, I believe. These documentaries take a very, very long time to edit.
They really do.
Like, I mean, you very long time to edit.
You will record like 4 or 5 hours with each individual person, and you'll go find maybe 2 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, and then you've got to cut
thing.
that throughout the entire documentary.
You got to score the thing, then you have to go to edits, and then like color and all this other stuff. It's a pain in the ass.
It's brutal. But
because you're not dealing with professional actors at that point, you're dealing with regular people.
And and you're trying to find interesting moments and stories and things like that. So that documentary will be out soon. But it was fascinating to see, because they had them on today to talk about it. Right. It was fascinating to see these kids all grown up now, where, you know, again, you're close to 20 years later now at this point. It doesn't seem like 20 years to me.
No, it doesn't. I mean, it's one of those pinnacle moments in a lot of people's lives, and I'm not sure this latest generation has one of those. I don't know what it would be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yet.
Like maybe for if you're...
I would say the pandemic probably right now because we're in it.
Yeah, I guess at this point.
But, you know, it's going to be one of those things you look back on in years and see what happened with the country and everything else to kind of decide that. But, you know, with me personally, when 9/11 happened, I thought it would happen again.
Yeah.
And I thought there would be a lot more of it, and it turns out there hasn't been, fortunately, on our side. But
yeah, I mean, there was not for the United States, but London had its 9/11. I think it's 7/4, right?
Correct.
London, 7/4 maybe, or 7/7. What was it? I don't remember. Oh, 7/7. Yeah.
Yeah, 7/7.
Yeah. So they had the things, and then Paris train attack was kind of like less of a thing, but just it hasn't happened to us specifically again necessarily, but we've had major events. I mean, the Orlando nightclub shooting was a closeted gay Muslim dude that wanted to fucking murder a bunch of gay people because he felt gay himself, probably. I mean, that's usually how it goes. And then we had what's his name, Dorner, the former sheriff.
Yeah,
Eric Dorner in California.
In Los Angeles, yeah. But as far as terrorism acts from other countries happening here on American soil...
well, technically, the San Bernardino shooters, I believe, one of them might have been here on a green card, but the other one was not a citizen, I don't think. I don't think either of them were actually citizens. So I guess it depends on what you mean when you say international terrorism. Is it something like somebody coming here to do something, or terrorists internationally influencing people who either are not citizens but reside in this country, like Major Nadal Hassan, for example, was, I think, Anwar al-Awlaki, the guy that from Arizona, actually, that Obama dropped a fucking bomb on in Yemen, was the one that radicalized him, I believe. So I guess, again, it depends. Like, technically speaking, both people involved in that were American citizens, and one of them was in the military. They both were born here. They weren't naturalized. They were both born here. And but that still kind of seems like an act of international terrorism and not domestic terrorism, doesn't it? Because it originated overseas. I don't know how they define that stuff. But anyways, nothing like nowhere near 3,000 people.
No,
right?
No, and look how it changed the course of our country and how we live our day-to-day lives. I mean, shit, flights to this day going through TSA and all that shit are a nightmare because of 9/11. All of this security that we go through. I mean, was you were in Homeland Security, right?
Yeah.
Was that created because of 9/11?
Yeah, sure was. Yeah. 180,000 new jobs. Yeah. New government jobs. That's
something we didn't have. And, again, fucking traveling today
it's a nightmare.
Is still affected by it. We had the fucking shoe bomber. Remember that guy?
Yeah, Richard Reed, I think his name was.
No.
From Detroit?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Had that fucking bullshit.
Yeah, Richard Reed.
And
doesn't look like a Richard Reed.
No.
Frankly. Looks more like a word I can't pronounce.
Where were you, by the way?
On 9/11?
Mm-hmm.
I was at my mom's place in South Carolina. Had just finished one round of school and was getting ready to start another one. Just hanging out there. They actually slept in and when I say slept in, I guess it was like 7:30 because I was in South Carolina. I was on the East Coast, so it was still pretty early though.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was around 7:30 when the first plane hit, right? When did first plane hit?
I want to say about 8:30, 8:40 a.m. and I think the second one
hit.
was
8:45. Yeah. So I was up early and then kind of dozed back off and got woken up by this because I sleep with the television on, so I don't remember I think I had like CNN or fucking something like that on because it was before CNN was what CNN is today. They were actually a pretty decent news source back in the day, particularly in the late 90s. They tore fucking Clinton's asshole out of his body on a regular basis.
I watched CNN I think for 2 weeks straight after that. I was locked in. That was the only channel that was on in our house after that. After that happened, I was in Los Angeles and the entire city shut down, very similar to the way the pandemic did. Like, a few places were open and you kind of just grabbed food and liquor and what else and brought it back to your place. Nobody really wanted to leave their house. My roommate woke me up. My roommate's fiance, she woke me up after the first plane hit, and she said, our country's under a terror attack. And I was like, I think a plane just flew into the building. Like, I refuse to believe it.
Yeah, because
one.
There are plane crashes, not really like that, honestly, not commercial plane crashes like that.
Right.
But there are small plane crashes in New York City all the time.
Yeah.
Like my old company commander's dad is one of the base commanders in the Air Force back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Obviously a pilot in his civilian life now. And he crashed a plane in New York City one time, like into a fucking neighborhood or some shit.
Yeah.
It's like that shit happens
Sully.
way more. Yeah,
landing on the Hudson.
Yeah, that shit happens way more than you think. But so when people say that he should have known immediately after because that's one of the criticisms of Bush. Like the first Secret Service guy that came in told him they didn't say our country's under attack. They said a plane just flew into the World Trade Center. And
was that the exact words?
I don't know the exact words.
Gotcha.
But I guess I could look it up. But or Josh, could you look that up for me? Could you? Yeah.
Look up the exact words of that Secret Service.
If it exists. But yeah, that from my understanding, at least from the intelligence reports, they didn't know at that point. Like, which is why a lot of things changed after that. So there was actually a report written by an FBI agent in Arizona out of the Phoenix office saying that Osama bin Laden's organization, Al-Qaeda, is looking for people to fly planes into buildings in the United States. It got published 2 weeks before the shit happened. And there was such a logjam in processing intelligence and sharing it out to everybody that it never got read.
Really?
Yeah.
Fuck. Yeah, but when I got woken up that morning, I woke up and then I saw immediately, like 2 minutes later, the second plane hit. And then that's when I was like, oh shit, we're under attack. And in Los Angeles at the time, there was such a panic because there were so many planes in the sky, right? Because then you had the plane in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, as well. And there were so many planes still in the sky. The one was coming from Boston to Los Angeles. So on the Los Angeles news, they had actually told us that there was a plane heading to Los Angeles still. And, they were looking to crash it somewhere in Los Angeles. So obviously, everybody in LA was panicked and we didn't know what was going to happen. And that went on for, I want to say 5 or 6 hours before there was finally confirmation on the news. And again, we had CNN on that all planes in the U.S. had grounded travel and then they were all accounted for.
Yeah. It took a minute.
But it took a long time. Yeah.
Air traffic control is so good at their job. Like you have no idea how good these people are.
I didn't know how good they were until that day.
Yeah. I mean, they are some of the most calm and professional human beings.
Yep.
I feel like you could walk in there and start slapping people in the back of the head and it would not disrupt their day at all. Like they're just so laser focused. If you've ever seen the inside, a lot of people haven't been able to go in there because there's security clearance reasons and all this other bullshit. But if you've ever seen the inside of one, when it's operating, particularly during a heavy traffic day, they're fucking moving pieces around. A lot of it's digital now, but they're still clicking stuff and moving pieces around, talking to like 6 different people at once. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I could never do that. I would be so angry. Like 5 minutes in, I'd be like, fuck this. And I would crash everything.
There's one air traffic controller movie, which is pretty good. It's Billy Bob Thornton and John Cusack. And
what is the name of that
it's
movie?
Pretty intense. Tin Man or Tin Cup? No,
it's definitely not Tin Cup.
But it might be Tin Man something. That's pretty much the only one that was
Pushing 10.
Pushing 10. There you go. I was halfway there.
What the fuck does Pushing 10 mean?
Halfway there, but yeah. When I was watching that, I was like, Jesus Christ, this job's intense.
Yeah, dude, it's fucked.
And you really have to focus. And for that many planes to be up in the air, I remember because I think it was Cheney who was like, "Look, we're going to start shooting these down. If people, aren't saying who they are and that they're safe and everything else." And it was just complete fucking chaos all day long, obviously. And it's strange to look back. Here we are, 19 years later at this point, and it's just as big today as it was then. It
is, yeah. And it's it's interesting. I made a post on Instagram today, kind of wondering aloud, I suppose, what the fuck we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna read it for those that didn't see it because this is a real question for me. So the title is "Bad Things Are Gonna Happen," and I say how we react defines who we are as people and who we are as a country. In the moments after the 9/11 attacks, we witnessed brave men and women charge into danger without regard to race, ethnicity, religion, and without regard for their own safety to save human lives. And it wasn't just, it was regular people in some cases. A lot of them were obviously first responders and stuff. But what's his name? Steve Buscemi was there. He was a volunteer firefighter apparently, or he had been a firefighter earlier before he started acting or some shit like that. And he showed up. Say what you want to about Trump, but he hired a massive team of people to go dig through the rubble and find survivors out of his own pocket. So then I go on to say, in the weeks after, we witnessed an unprecedented unity in America and widespread recognition of first responders who gave their lives. So George W. Bush went to Yankee Stadium to throw out the first pitch, and in the most liberal city that exists, maybe at that time at least, the President of the United States was received with a standing ovation, right? Everybody was kind of on the same page. And anyways, then in the months after, we witnessed a corrupt government use our sense of unity to start 2 pointless wars, which turned out to be America's longest wars, and also inflate the size of the federal government by like a massive amount. So my question is, who are we going to be tomorrow? It's time for America to decide who it's going to be, right? Are we going to let the media and a corrupt government convince us to hate each other, or are we going to live a life worthy of the sacrifices that have been made? And I hope each of you ask yourself that question each morning. And that's kind of where my head's been at all day today, because I've been looking through the news, something you posted actually on Instagram earlier. Joe Biden and Mike Pence, two people that dislike each other very much. On this day, there's a picture of them like saying hi and fucking elbow bumping or whatever the fuck.
Dapping elbows.
Yeah. That picture should be, if the media, if CNN and Fox News gave two fucks about us, that would be the picture, the headline picture on every single our news site right now.
Right.
That would be today's news story. But it's not. I mean, if you can look on CNN and see what it is. It's all political bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they don't give two fucks about you.
No, and look, I had to dig for that picture, and I was like, all right, great. It's two vice presidents coming together, and obviously Biden is running for president right now, and it sucks that it takes a day like 9/11 to actually put politics aside and be like, hey, man, we're all Americans, and this is a great country. And
the only website I could find it on, by the way, when I searched for it, was CNBC, which is a financial site.
Yeah. Well,
it's because they didn't have anything else to report, probably, so they had to put it on there. That is embarrassing, and it is derelict. They are derelict in their duty as journalists. I know we say this all the time, but I am truly embarrassed by what the news media in this country has become, frankly, because it makes us, first of all, it just fractures us in a way that has become, I think, maybe irreparable. I don't know if we can fix it or not. I hope so, but it also makes us look like a bunch of fucking assholes to the rest of the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and look, I go on Twitter every day because host a couple shows a day, try to stay on top of current events and popular culture and all that stuff. And look, Twitter is the best source for finding news in real time, but it's also the worst source for whatever narrative they're trying to fucking push and jam into your face. So when I pulled up Twitter today, one of their top articles, number one was the lost are remembered on the 19th anniversary of the September 11th attacks. The next article down is anti-Muslim hate crimes spiked following 9/11. FBI data confirms. Why?
Okay.
Why? What? Again, it was 19 years ago. To me, this is a no-brainer. Of course it did. Our country was just attacked, and that's going to happen anywhere.
If 1% of our country are just dumb fuck assholes, anytime anything happens, somebody's going to do some stupid shit, right? We just got to be ready for that shit.
And the article says, the FBI logged 481 incidents in 2001 versus 28 in 2000.
So it went from 28 to 41?
Yeah, it went from 481 to 28. And it's like, so it jumped 460 during that period. Well, of course it did. I mean, our country just got attacked, and we lost close to 4,000 people. Like, I'm sure Americans who were in Japan at the time of Hiroshima, like they got the same fucking treatment, That's not a shocking thing, but why dig up this article 19 years later and put that on the...
Who the fuck knows?
It doesn't make any sense.
There's a lot of good news today, though, as well.
There is. It's just you have to dig for it, though.
Yeah, it is irritating that you have to dig for it. There's one in particular. Well, there's actually two major things. This is breaking news. For the first time, I think, in history, Trump has announced a deal between Bahrain and Israel to begin diplomatic relationships. That's 2 in 1 month.
Wow.
Now, it's two very wealthy Muslim countries that are now in direct talks with Israel, right? This is a strategy that it's become clear to me now after today's announcement exactly what Trump's strategy is. He's going to get all of these smaller but very rich countries involved until Saudi Arabia is pressured into getting involved as well. And then the last hurdle will be Iran and any of its controlled states, because like Iran, Syria, Libya, and things like that are going to be tough, but if you get the Sunni side on board, they've particularly the Saudi royal family, and Jordan's been this way for years. They care about money and their people. Like they care about fucking being a rich country, and they don't give a fuck about all this old bullshit anymore. The Hamidi's talked about it on the show before. The new leadership in Saudi Arabia is trying to turn shit around now. So, man, imagine 4 years from now, or 2 or 3 years now, or however long it takes, Trump announcing that there's diplomatic relationships between Saudi Arabia and Israel, you know what I mean? Shit like that.
Right.
That they're going to exchange embassies and all this other stuff. A lot of big stuff is happening right now.
A lot, and it's behind the scenes. And I know Jared Kushner is always over there, and he's always pictured around these meetings. I'm not sure the influence that guy has, but clearly it is huge because he is always behind the scenes of these goddamn things. And more and more...
Well, he learned to negotiate. I mean, say what you want to about Trump. He's had a lot of... Anybody that does the amount of business he does is going to have plenty of failed businesses, sure.
Yes.
Like, it's just the way it is. And if you work in real estate especially, you're probably going to file bankruptcy a couple of times because the real estate market is volatile as fuck.
Yeah.
But you can also become a billionaire in it. So you
got to keep trying.
Yeah, it is what it is. But Kushner clearly has learned quite a bit from working in that organization because he seems to be some kind of master negotiator. I'm not a huge fan of that guy, but you can't really argue with his fucking
I'm not
output.
either. I don't know. It's weird, man. I don't know much about him. I think I've only heard him speak one time. But what's interesting to me is clearly he was behind this deal as well because he's always over in Israel working with those guys. What's interesting to me is are they setting up these relations behind the scene for Ivanka to run after him in 2024 if he's able to pull out this election? Because let's face it, then Jared Kushner's in there, obviously. So as the first man, is that what we're going to call it? The first man, first male? You think?
What's the word for lady that's a man?
Madam. It's madam.
First dude.
Yeah.
No. It's
first dude.
It's first lady. But what would be the honorific title for a dude? I don't know.
I don't either.
First dick. That's what I would want to be called.
First dick.
I'm the first
White
hall,
House.
bitch.
Son?
That would be a great job, by the way. Can you imagine, like, being the first man or whatever you want to call them? Would be amazing because you don't have to deal with the shit that you don't have to fucking go to press conferences and be like, oh, what kind of clothes are you wearing? Nobody's going to ask you that as a dude and all that demeaning, stupid fucking bull. Oh, where'd you get your hair did? Fucking great clips, bitch. Fuck you think? I'm in the White House. Somebody came over and cut my hair. I don't know what to fucking tell you. There's people walking around everywhere all the time. I don't know what the fuck's going on here.
Sorry, man.
I want to see some total fucking dirtbag be the first man.
That'd be great.
Jared goddamn Taylor.
Yeah, imagine if Jared was the first
Jesus Christ. This country would be so amazing if Jared Taylor, getting into office, married the fucking female president. Yeah. That's what I want for Jared Taylor. I want him living in the White House but with no responsibility and nothing to do, just free time. Can you imagine the fucking crazy bullshit that would come out of that? I would vote for I don't care if, man, what if he married Hillary? Would you vote for Hillary?
No, I don't think I could do that. Female-wise, I'd go Tulsi Gabbard, I guess. If I gun to head, I'd go Tulsi. If Jared ended up marrying Tulsi Gabbard, I'd do that. I think I still couldn't do Hillary no matter what. Hey, did you get in the military from 9/11?
Yeah.
So did it's odd, man, because obviously I wrote Matt's book with him, and same thing where his brother was actually supposed to graduate boot camp.
Yeah, and he got cancer.
Yeah, but he was on 9/11, so they were going down there, and it all this crazy shit was going down, and that Matt was like, dude, I want to be a part of this.
You can read about that in the book, by the way, if you haven't read it yet, audiobook or the paperback.
Thank you for my service.
Or the hardback,
yeah, and that's how it starts actually.
Yeah,
it starts off with 9/11, and
there's a really funny quote in there too that he was talking shit to his brother about having cancer, which is fucked up, but come on. We are who we are here. You guys know.
Semper find me a doctor.
Yeah, you guys know exactly who we are. You've been watching long enough.
I'm surprised the publisher let me put that in.
You can't. What the fuck are they gonna say? He said it to his actual brother who had actual cancer.
Hey, they pulled some other shit. You'd be surprised, but
we can't get into it. But it's so fucking stupid. Some of the stuff they pulled didn't even make sense.
No. And even the CIA pulled some shit that it was just like, what? You can't say that.
The CIA stuff they got pulled is the really puzzling thing.
Yeah.
Like especially that one.
Inspector Gadget.
That one, and then the other agent.
Unless that was
There's no fucking way. There's no way. That would be like having, like you're a covert baseball player and you're going under the name Barry Bonds or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's fucking stupid. Yeah, no one would ever fucking do that.
The phrase Inspector Gadget got redacted in that. Fun fact. Now that the book's out, I don't give a shit. But and if you find me in person, I'll tell you the rest of it. It's pretty funny. But that was Matt's motivation, and obviously his brothers and all that other stuff. And I find that a common theme because look, we're up to, I don't know, 700-800 shows now on Drinkin Bros. Tough to tell because the fake news is labeled something else and Derek's show is labeled something else. But everybody I've interviewed over the years, I've asked them that. And man, I would say it's probably a good 75% who were like 9/11 was the defining factor.
Well, especially now. I mean, if you had joined before 9/11 at this point, you would be at least in your 20th year in the service. So you would be getting close to retirement unless you're a general officer or something like that. But yeah, my brother and I were in, so he was in the Guard before when he went to the Citadel when he was in college. And we were at the recruiter's office in October, right? Like right after that shit. So I was too close to having paid a fine for weed to join yet. So I had to wait. So I just went back to college another time.
Okay.
And then I joined in 2005. By the way,
does the military know? Like, does that show up on your record of like, hey man, you were paying for weed? Don't smoke weed when you're in here.
Well, yeah. I mean, you have to get like a morality waiver or some shit like that. You have to
really?
talk to some colonel and be like, yeah, I don't smoke weed anymore. And I didn't smoke weed at the time, but I was doing acid all the time. As a matter of fact, the entire year before I joined the Army, I did acid every single day. Literally every single day. We talked about this 2 years ago on the show. But but anyways, yeah, so I went back to school and then I joined immediately, went to the 82nd, and we fucking got down and did some shit.
Darren, let me ask you, because look, hindsight is always 20/20 and all this shit. And like, I know you've said it numerous times on the show how you feel about the wars and then, the fact that we're still over there and everything else. At the time, what was your thought process when you were there right after 9/11? Did you genuinely think like, hey man, I'm going to change the world?
No, dude, come on. No, I was over there to fight, man. Look, you don't get to choose the war you fight. Like a lot of people that were they did their 4, 5, 6, whatever it was in the late 90s, and they hang out with us and they're veterans, but they feel like they're somehow less than we are because they didn't go to war. Like you don't get to choose that shit, man.
Right.
I mean, I guess you do in a way. If there's a war going on and you sign up, you better goddamn know you're going to it. And that's, most of us did that. We knew that we were going to war, but it's kind of a weird situation, I suppose. There's no less than, you know what I mean? So when I was there, I had no delusions that we were fucking changing anything. I just signed up because I wanted to go kill the people that were trying to kill my people. It's really that simple.
But did you feel like when you were there that the people you were killing, that they were responsible for 9/11, and it was just like is that what they tell you when you're over there? Like, hey man, what you're doing right now is it's kind of payback for 9/11, and these are the guys, and we've zeroed in on them, blah blah blah.
I don't think anybody believed that, frankly.
Yeah,
nobody I know.
I was always curious about this. So nobody did, huh?
Well, Iraq is not Afghanistan. I mean, they tried.
I agree. I agree, but
and Afghanistan is not the Taliban.
How is it? How is it explained to you as a soldier when it was like, hey, here's why we're going to Iraq? Were any of you like, hey man, why Iraq and not Afghanistan?
Well, I deployed in late 2006, early 2007. And by then we knew that there were no weapons of mass destruction over there. Not anymore anyways. I think there is some credible evidence that they had some stuff and shipped it out to Syria, but it was probably less than what we thought. Because look,
on those trucks, right?
We found not we personally, but the American military found a bunch of those mobile labs that were like bleached the fuck out. Mm-hmm. So there had to be something in there at some point, but not on the scale that required us sending 130,000 people over there, or whatever the fuck it wants. I mean, that's nonsense. And nobody believed that. There's actually, I can't remember the woman's name, but she's like a tall, pretty sturdy Fox News host at the time, war correspondent. I can't remember her name, but she would go out on patrols with us and ask me about changing hearts and minds and all this, but whatever the fucking Republican political talking points were at the time. And I just fucking laid into this whole thing. Like, and I'm calm. I'm sitting there pulling security. I'm just like, yeah, that's a bunch of bullshit. Obviously, I mean, you can't come into somebody's house, kick the door down, fucking point a gun in their face and expect them to like you afterwards. It doesn't make any sense. What we're doing here is pointless. And she was like, oh, you want to expand on that? I'm like, I sure do, as a matter of fact. Went on for a few minutes, and that never saw the light of day, obviously. I mean, Fox News is not going to put that shit on. They're not going to put some fucking military member that's in an elite unit like the 82nd Airborne saying this is all fucking pointless while he's pointing a gun down the street. You know what I mean? Because it kind of it betrays the real reason people do things. Like, personally, I don't like bullies. If I see somebody bullying someone else and I feel like they're in the wrong, like, sometimes bullying is okay. When you're kids, it teaches you to be tough and to develop a personality and conflict resolution, all this other stuff. But once you get to be an adult, if you're still doing that shit, I'm going to come get you because I don't like it.
Right.
And I think it's inappropriate, and like, just living life is tough enough without somebody fucking with you all the time. And we can't tolerate that kind of shit. Yeah. We can't. So I didn't like that, and that's why I joined for the most part. Like, I saw, even though I knew there was a better chance that I was going to Iraq than Afghanistan, just sheer numbers wise, because there are more people there. So statistically, it's more likely to go there. And I knew that was kind of pointless. I also knew that there's a lot of dumb shit going on over there, and maybe we can fucking stop some of it. But once I got there and saw how everything operated, I was like, nah, this is dumb. Yeah. We'll never make any progress here.
Where were you at when you found out Bin Laden got nuked? It's weird now because, look, Rob's obviously a good friend of ours. We're going to be with him on Tuesday. We'll be doing a show with Rob O'Neill on Tuesday, ironically, in Nashville, Tennessee. But where were you at when you found that out? I remember I think it was a Sunday night. And I was I was still in Los Angeles at that point. And I was at a bar. And the entire bar had stopped. And they had cranked up the thing. And they said the president's going to come out and speak. Yeah. And we didn't know what it was going to be or what. There was some rumors that they were going to say that they got Bin Laden. But The Rock was the first one that reported it on social media. And I remember somebody leading with The Rock story, and I was like, how the fuck does The Rock know this before the rest of the world? It turns out he had somebody over there who had texted him, I guess.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. I was, I think I was in Minneapolis at my ex's sister's house, I believe. And we were like her brother-in-law and I are good friends. So I think we were getting ready to go do something like that, and it started to flash around, and then I started to get pictures of his face with holes in it from people.
No shit.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, cool. He is dead. I still thought it was really weird that they just fired his ass in the fucking ocean like that. I thought that was pretty weird, but...
well, they had to, right? Because...
there's a lot of ways to handle that burial.
Right.
But they didn't want to...
But that one in particular, are we allowed to say no, or... Mm-mm. Okay.
But there's a reason they did it.
Yes.
I think there's two kind of reasons. I think one reason is I'm just assuming, no one's ever told me this, because I know a couple of guys that were there. No one's ever told me this, just so you know. But I think that everybody in the room after they took that picture, walked in and fucking dumped rounds on that guy.
So that's what I think too. That's what I was about to say, and I didn't know whether we could say that or not.
Yeah.
And by the way, Rob has never said anything.
No,
so
he wouldn't say anything like that. That's stupid.
So we don't have any firsthand account of this, but that is the story that I heard as well. You know, along the way. And look, if I was in that house that day, I would do the same fucking thing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I would have fucking pissed on that guy. But you know, there's another reason, and this is the real reason the government decided to do it. It wasn't a conspiracy or anything. They didn't want to make a fucking monument. They didn't want to make another Mecca or whatever, some site where people come to fucking visit,
pray,
and make a fucking martyr out of him and make a martyr location out of it. They didn't want that, so he just threw his ass in the ocean. And there was actually a lot of debate about it. They were like, hey, can we do this? Like, yeah, there is a provision for burial at sea for Muslims. And they didn't want to be disrespectful to the body, even though it's the biggest piece of shit on earth.
Right.
And just they didn't want to inflame tensions with the Muslim community.
Which was smart, I thought.
Yeah. And it was smart that they threw him in the ocean, too, honestly. It was smart because, unless you're going to fucking charter a boat, a big one, and go way the fuck out there, there's no real way to fucking celebrate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're one of those dicks, so...
Yeah, I was in liberal ass Hollywood, and I was surprised that everybody was amped about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you don't really see this out of America.
Well, I don't think they would have been as amped if Bush had still been president.
Exactly, and that was my next thought. I was like,
because it was
Obama. They were like, hey,
Obama killed Bin Laden, man. What do you want? That was during the fucking 2012 presidential election. That's all they talked. Well, Obama killed fucking. No, he didn't kill anybody. First of all, Rob O'Neill killed that motherfucker.
Yeah.
I can get him if you need him. It's right over here. But anyways, yeah, I just thought that was stupid. And they would have said that either way, but it was like, it was, I didn't think it was that big a deal at that point. It was just for revenge. It wasn't like he was
10 years later? Was it? It was 2011, I think.
May
right?
2nd, 2011. Yeah. It was. He wasn't. He was holed up in a fucking place. There was a courier going back and forth, and that's actually how we caught him. If you read any of the reports or any of the books associated with that, but he wasn't like. Al Qaeda was always decentralized. Like, hey, here's a plan. You guys go execute that plan, and they put people in the United States that aren't part of the plan just to facilitate it, like to provide resources and stuff, right?
Right.
So you're like you have a handler that has a bunch of money. So no. These hijackers never got directly sent money from anybody outside the country. That's how they fucking get away with shit. It's smart.
Yeah.
It's he wasn't really involved, I don't think, at that point. He was just kind of on dialysis and apparently watching a lot of porn.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
A lot.
It's one of those things though where I don't even care that it was just for revenge at that point and that he wasn't doing anything. It was just one of those moments where you're at peace with it, where you're like, all right, finally, that asshole's gone. You couldn't hide in the mountains forever. Because I don't know if when you were over there, if there was any talk of like, hey, man, you're constantly sending in teams to go and look for this guy.
Yeah. I don't know how much money we spent trying to find this asshole, frankly.
Was it just an absurd amount? Like,
I'm sure it was, yeah. Had to be. But it is what it is. Like, That isn't one you can go back on. You've got to kill him.
Yeah.
Like, you can't stop that. You know what I mean? So, it is what it is. We spent a bunch of money doing it, and it didn't really accomplish much other than give us a couple of weeks of partying and Obama some fucking help with the re-election, but didn't really do that much, frankly. I don't think I think the most significant person that's been killed by U.S. operators, well, the two most actually have happened pretty recently, al-Baghdadi
and Soleimani.
Yeah, those are big. Those are big fucking hits. Those are good ones. Not that Obama didn't have his. Like, taking out Anwar al-Awlaki, who was an American citizen that we talked about earlier, that was a big fucking hit, too.
Yeah.
Like, that guy was into some shit. He was running the vast majority of the active terror cells that were still operating, right, at that time. We just dropped a goddamn bomb on him. So that was a big hit, too. I just didn't want to take any credit away from Obama where it was due.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, as a president, that is one of the biggest accomplishments he'll be remembered for.
Right.
Because he was there. And granted, look, no, it was not him. But he was certainly in charge and said, hey, man, you can either go and do this or not, right?
Yeah. People say, they tried to say that about the Bin Laden raid. Like, is he, would other presidents have gone in on that little information and whatever the fuck, because they didn't have like drone footage every minute. They couldn't fly a drone over because they would see it, and it was almost unbelievable that for all this time this motherfucker was like 800 meters away from Pakistan's version of West Point. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like people, when I'm sure when the CIA director first saw that report, he was like, what? This can't be real. Like, you can't be fucking serious with this shit. So, you know, turned out he was.
Yep.
He was there. Tried to use his wife as a human shield. So did al-Baghdadi, by the way. He actually didn't. He tried to use his daughter as a human shield and then shot her in the head and then blew himself up because he didn't want the Americans to get her.
Yeah. So, hell of a guy.
Great dad. Yeah. Dad of the year.
Father of the year.
Yeah, it's him and Scott Peterson, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a dated reference. I couldn't think of anything else.
Scott Peterson's fine. He's still in the headlines. There was another one that popped up today about Lindsey Graham, actually. Speaking of Soleimani. And that, I guess he advised Trump 4 days before not to do this. They were like, hey, man, this is a fucking bad idea.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Seemed like a good goddamn idea to me. Everyone was like, oh, fucking World War III is going to happen. Whatever. Nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
The fucking Iranians fired a couple of missiles at one of our bases that didn't hit shit. And a couple of guys got TBI probably. I mean, if an explosion happens, somebody's going to get TBI. You can get a traumatic brain injury from a small, like a 105 millimeter round from 1 mile away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's the concussive wave, and it depends on the atmospheric pressure and all this other bullshit. A lot of stuff can go wrong. Explosions are not good for your brain. That's why it's Suicide Awareness Month, right? Dudes' brains get fucked up. Women too.
Yeah.
When they're around that, when they're shooting guns all the time, particularly fucking big cruiser weapons, firing RPGs, getting hit by RPGs, all this stuff, it fucks your brain up bad. And so I'm sure some people got fucked up. I don't want to marginalize that, but I mean the response from killing the guy who is the architect of the partnership between Sunni and Shia forces against America, I'll take that.
Yeah, and what he was the creator of IEDs essentially too.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, and he was actually involved in the 83 Beirut Marine Corps base bombing, like the first like explosion terrorism that happened in the Muslim world back then, or at least the one that got all of this kicked off in the early 80s.
The reason I bring this up about Lindsey Graham today is, again, given credit where credit is due with Obama, like I'm sure even when Obama was there were people around him that just said, hey, man, don't do this. Because if that mission goes bad and it goes sideways and you lose a bunch of American lives, and especially an elite Navy SEAL team like that, you're going to take massive fucking heat for it.
I mean, sure, but it happened with Operation Red Wing too. That's the one that Marcus Luttrell was on. I mean, they forget about the.
Who was president then?
Let me rephrase that. Bush was president.
Bush was president.
Yeah. I don't remember him taking a whole lot of heat, like Bush specifically for that, because, Marcus and his team got pinned down. You've all seen the fucking movie at this point. Not that tells the whole story, but God, what was the name of the fucking helicopter that got shot down? I've got a sticker sitting on my fucking porch right now. I can't remember the name. Let's see. Search and rescue. I can't remember the name of the I'll find it. Find out the name of the helicopter team for me that did that. Anyways, like a bunch of other dudes died going out to get them. There was a massive event of like SEAL Team 3 got fucked. They lost a lot of guys that day or over the course of those days. So I don't remember him taking a whole lot of heat for that. And that's, I don't know, but DevGru is different. SEAL Team 6, whatever you're going to call it, it's different. Like if you lose Tier 1 operators, that's a problem because it takes millions and millions of dollars to train these people. Speaking of Tier 1 operators, one got awarded the Medal of Honor today.
Really? That's amazing.
Yep. Sergeant Major Thomas Payne. He's a Delta operator, former Ranger. Let's see. I've been trying to find the citation, but I think he just got it today, so I don't think it's out yet.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, let me see if I can find more information on this.
So it is Major Payne, though, right?
Sergeant Major Payne, technically, but
like the movie.
Yeah, probably the same guy.
Was it Damon Wayans? Is Damon Wayans going to play him in the movie?
No, but I can't get into that. Never mind.
I'm a big Major Payne fan, by the way.
Yeah, it was a great movie
as a kid.
So basically what had happened was in 2015, Payne's team did a helicopter insertion of the 2 target buildings and compounds that were known to hold prisoners. They stepped in and helped Curtis Special Operations Team after they immediately got engaged in a vicious firefight. After leading a team that quickly secured the first building, freeing 38 hostages, Payne rushed to help with the assault on the second building. That's what leaders do, by the what
Extortion 17 is
Extortion
what the audience
17, yeah.
is saying here.
Yeah.
Shout out to Vitamin Jake, Brian
that.
English, and XIOE. Mark Vidar. Everybody's chiming in here.
Right.
We're live on YouTube.
Yep.
Obviously, subscribe to Drinkin Bros podcast if you're out there and you want to watch the video show of this.
Right.
We're in our fancy new studio, but that's amazing, man.
Well, it's not over yet. So Sergeant Major Payne's team took down the first building, freed 38 people, and then he moved on to the second building. That building was on fire, and he climbed a ladder to the roof and started throwing grenades down at enemy fighters below.
Shit.
Once he got back down to ground level, he started killing people through a breach hole in the side of the building. So sometimes we don't want to use doors because people often stand on the other side of them with guns.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll just we'll come in with a kit, like plywood sometimes with just a bunch of fucking explosives on it. Stick it to the door, pop it, blows the whole fucking wall out, right? So he's shooting through a big ass hole in the side. Located another 37 hostages, killed everybody in there, basically got the hostages out. And I'm sure there's a lot more to it than that. But he, when the building was still on fire and about to collapse, he went back into it under enemy fire to make sure no prisoners had been left.
Shit.
Yep. So he's the first living Delta operator in history to be awarded the Medal of Honor, I think.
Man, that's amazing.
The other 2 guys that I'm familiar with are Gordon and Sugar from Black Hawk Down, and they were both dead.
Yeah, it's funny, man. Like, unless there's a fucking movie about these guys,
Yeah.
you don't really hear these stories unless you talk about them out loud, right?
Yeah.
And
it
even
can be
Dakota.
difficult to make a movie about stuff like that. Dakota's would be a great movie.
Yeah. So even Dakota, like, look, we're best friends with Dakota Meyer in real life, and we don't. It's not like we ever sit around and talk about what he did or shit. I don't know if the Medal of Honor has ever even come up in one single conversation we've ever had, right?
Yeah.
I went back and tried to educate myself, and it was on our YouTube page the other day after he was on the show. Apologized to Jack Mandeville, aka Big Comes there, but it's going to be a Dakota story. His 60 Minutes interview was on there, describing that story after he was awarded the Medal of Honor, and I had no idea, and I was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah. I mean, I had read the book and talked to him about it before, but one of the best interviews that Joe Rogan has ever done was Dakota's show. If you haven't seen that episode,
Agreed.
You should definitely go watch it.
One of the best, and Joe Rogan said himself, he was like, "This is one of the best shows I've ever done in the history of my career." And it's weird because I had heard the show, and then I saw the 60 Minutes piece afterwards. It's still that the Rogan episode still didn't do it justice for what Dakota actually went through and everything. And so I watched that 60 Minutes piece. It was fucking gnarly, man.
I mean, it was serious.
Yeah.
It was serious, and he was, it's the most impressive thing about it to me is not charging back in every single time or fucking beating a dude's brains in with a rock or shooting people or any of that shit, because that's just war. That shit happens. But continuing to go back in after every dude, every friend you find out there is dead already, and you keep going out. That to me is the biggest thing that happened that day.
Yeah, and watching it, man, because they, you got to see, they had kind of like 3D mock maps and models of it, and it it does seem impossible that he's still alive, to be honest with you. Like, looking at the terrain and stuff from an overhead view like that, it's amazing he's even still alive. And again, I've never seen it at his house. I've never seen the medal. He's never spoken about it, and says nothing about it ever.
Well, he's spoken about it in public though a lot. People ask him why he doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, and he's told us, he's reiterated this to me privately, so it's not just something he says in public. It's to him, that medal means a lot, or for a lot of people, that medal means a lot, right? And I'm sure it means a lot to him too. It's a great honor, obviously, but it's like a constant reminder of all of his dead friends. You know what I mean? I don't think anybody wants to wear that shit around.
Obviously. But we have, we've met others who are happily have that on them all the time and everything else. And yeah,
everybody approaches it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So, and it's, you got to be, it's a unique situation. Trauma always is unique. So, it doesn't really matter.
Looking back at it now, clearly we know your stance on war and the fact that we're still over there. Have we accomplished anything since 9/11?
I mean,
I know that's a heavy question, but you were there, and it's like, you have the benefit of being out now and seeing it and everything else, and it's like, what would have been the right call? I know you disagree with us being there for those reasons.
You mean Iraq specifically?
Yeah.
I don't think we should have deployed ground forces like that to Iraq or Afghanistan. Afghanistan is not the Taliban, and the Taliban is not Al-Qaeda. Like, the Taliban sucks for sure, but they're no worse than Saudi Arabia's government back then. You know what I mean? I mean, they're a bunch of fucking old assholes. They're no worse than Erdogan is in Turkey right now. Like, they're doing the same bullshit, just repressive, fucking murdering people for no reason and all this stupid bullshit. So, special operations troops and bombs are the way to go there. That's how the war started, actually. If you read, I think the book's called Operation Anaconda. It talks about those first operators and spooks that went in, and they were up there on mountaintops with SOFLAM lasers and shit like that, just fucking lighting stuff up while planes came in and fucking dropped bombs, making making friends with the Northern Alliance. A lot of stuff went on then, and for some reason, because the problem was we didn't have a clear mission. What did winning look like? You should never start a war unless there's a mission. So we went into World War II, and we knew the mission was to kill Hitler and defeat the Nazis and defeat Japan, right? We knew that those were the goals, for sure. When we went into Iraq, we gave Saddam Hussein 72 hours to leave Baghdad. It wasn't like killing him and reinstituting a new government was the plan. The plan was just to fucking go there.
Right.
It's fucking stupid. And the same thing in Afghanistan. What was our plan exactly?
Yeah, from a civilian perspective, what we thought watching the news and all that shit as a young man, obviously, that all you guys were deployed to specifically kill Osama bin Laden and defeat terrorism, and then you went to Iraq. What was the explanation to you guys of, hey, we got to get Saddam out of there because he had weapons of mass destruction? But how did that relate to the
people? That doesn't come down to our level. That doesn't come down to our level.
Ever?
No. What we hear is commander's intent. Like, we want to secure the area. What does that mean? We want this, and this neighborhood to be under our control first, and then pass it off to local national forces. That's what we get told. But
is that frustrating for somebody as smart as you, where you want to know the answers? Like, I know you, obviously, in real life. You want to know the answers and the reasoning behind something before you do anything in this life.
Right.
You never just jump into something and be like, well, that sounds like a good idea.
Well, that's the point of commander's intent. It should influence every single decision you make on the battlefield, and should influence every decision you make in business. Like, I have a friend that does medical startups out in San Francisco, and he does one every 3 years. Fucking rich. Those houses on Lombard Street,
right?
He owns one of those. He's rich as fuck, and this is what he does. So every time he does a new startup, he has a company handbook, right? An employee handbook, and there's one sentence. There's one page and one sentence, and it says, act like an owner. And you can't act like an owner. It's brilliant, by the way. Every decision you make, are you going to fucking stay a little bit later and finish that project today? Or are you going to fucking... he backed that up, by the way, with giving everybody equity in the company. It wasn't just a platitude. Like, he meant it. So are you going to spend more money than you need to because it's convenient or whatever the fucking case is? And you can't do that. You can't have commanders you can't have implied tasks that people figure out and do unless the commander's intent's clear. And what do you mean by secure the city? Should I just go fuck everybody up? Should I go intimidate people into, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or is there something else going on here that we need to fucking work towards? You have to tell me that. Otherwise, I can't do my goddamn job. And that's what the entire GWAT has been. Nonsense after nonsense.
And what happens to people if they do question it?
I don't think there's any retribution. Nobody there's just no answer.
Well, somebody like you, do people get pissed off within your unit if you're sitting around
all the time?
Okay.
All the time. We're sitting in a school circle or a semicircle or whatever the fuck, and it's like, hey, we're gonna go do this, this, and this, and I'm just like, Jesus fucking Christ, this is fucking stupid. But I don't say it like that. Like that's in my head. In my head, I'm asking questions that I know they can't answer. You know what I mean? I think that's a very good tactic when you're trying to debate somebody. So if you're having political debates, for example, ask people questions that you know they can't give a positive answer to. Like, what did Joe Biden mean when he said, "You're not black if you don't vote for me"? Right? And let them explain to that, because hearing themselves say what they're about to say, or even thinking it in their head, they realize that it's fucking stupid. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's how you create change. You ask a question, because if I say, "You're fucking wrong and here's why," you immediately get defensive, and then you return aggression towards me. If I ask a question you can't answer, you turn inward and you're like, fuck. And so people often get mad and go away, but usually they will come back and be like, you were right, and let's fucking do your thing now. Great. And that's the end of it. That's how you convince people and change minds, by the way. You don't do it with a hammer. Not every problem is a nail.
Yeah, I think that would have been the most frustrating part for me if I was in that situation of just not knowing clear answers of why I was doing X, you know? Because I'm one of those people who wants to know, what are we doing this for? Like, I'm not just going to jump off the fucking thing, you know? Again, it's strange looking back at all of it now. And again, having 20 years now close of hindsight at this point, where you're like, all right, what do we accomplish? How have we moved forward? How have we changed as a country and everything else? Whenever 9/11 happens too, I always think about some of the key figures throughout the day, like Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart and Gary Sinise, by the way, have done more as private citizens for veterans in this country than any government organization, any president, any fucking elected member of Congress or Senate.
I agree, yeah.
By a wide margin.
And in 9/11 in particular, he was the one who went in and fought for that bill to get passed. Yeah. If he doesn't do that and gains the press that gained, I don't know if that passes, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And that's a good example of how you can have political opinions and then still do the right thing. So people will often be faced or be presented an opportunity to do something really great for somebody else, but they'll stop themselves because it doesn't necessarily align, right? Like, the press should be all over Donald Trump's dick right now, and members of Congress and the Senate should be, Democrat or Republican, should be like, hey, how do we fucking speed this shit up? How do we get more of these countries to do peace deals and shit like that? But they're not, because it doesn't fit their narrative. And it's, I wonder what the public reaction would be to each, like, the opposite sides helping each other. Like, would it piss people off, or would it make them think? I don't know what the answer to that is, because we haven't fucking seen it in so long.
No. Even that picture I posted today on Instagram with Biden and Pence, there was a lot of people who were just like, what do we do now? They're just together, and there's nothing negative we can say.
Yeah. Well, they didn't post it, so.
No. And, you know, I read some of the comments that were underneath my thing just to see what it was before we came on air. And, you know, you still had people who were like, well, you know, Biden's not going to remember this meeting at all and whatever. And it was just like,
yeah.
Today's not the day for it, you know? But to me, it was nice to see, and it was a nice moment. And you're right. That's what should have made the headlines everywhere today, but it hasn't. But yeah, looking back, let's see. Jon Stewart was big at that time. I remember Giuliani and Bush, man. I look for, he wasn't a great president, obviously, but he was great during that moment, I felt. I felt that Michael Moore doc was unfair to him, saying he sat there for 8 minutes and waited for because they fucking played that clip over and over again. It was enough. That documentary Fahrenheit 9/11, which or 9/11, that came out and exploded. That's the highest grossing documentary of all time, I believe. And everybody was like, oh man, he sat there for 8 minutes. What was he thinking? And why wasn't he presidential? And blah, blah, blah. And it was like, well, there was children in front of him, and he was in a classroom, and he was there for them. And it was, it would have been impolite, and I didn't want to freak out those kids. Like, looking back at that moment, That was what he should have done. That was very presidential,
yeah,
actually.
I thought it was too. Stay calm under pressure. Like, what is he supposed to do? Jump up, fucking flip the table over and slap a kid in the face? Or what was the...
And again, I'm not a gigantic Bush fan, but I remember how great he was during that moment in particular. Yeah. I remember the speech on top of the rubble. I remember the American flag that was shredded. Yeah. That was there. I remember Saturday Night Live going back on air, man. And you know, it's hard. SNL has been shitty for years, but that moment where you finally had live comedy for the first time, and you could kind of laugh as a country again was because of SNL. That was the first show back, and Giuliani came, and you know, he was there, and it was a great moment for the country in New York and all that stuff. And those are things I'll never forget. Yeah. I remember it wasn't supposed to be. I don't think it was supposed to be Reese Witherspoon that night.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was Ben Stiller, and he backed out because the moment was too heavy. And I mean,
I'm fine with that. That's understandable if you don't think you can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was Ben Stiller's lived in New York his entire life, and his family is basically New York royalty. So I'm sure he felt a very deep connection to that place, and that probably fucked him up pretty good for a while. I think a lot of people, I think it was more than just the lives that were lost. It was seeing God bleed. Nobody thought America could bleed. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think that freaked a lot of people out, particularly New Yorkers, because they've got that attitude, right? I mean, New York is a liberal city, but there's something conservative about the attitude, the aggressive attitude, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That exists even amongst liberals there. It's just a New Yorker attitude. There's no other way to describe it, I guess. But yeah, I think that fucked them up pretty good, so I understand that.
Yeah, and there was, look, there's been a lot of comments today about what the pandemic has done versus 9/11 as well, where a lot of New Yorkers, like hardcore New Yorkers, right? I went to school there. I'm not a fucking New Yorker. I would never claim that as my city. But I love the city, or what it used to be. And they were like, look, man, it's kind of the same feeling, but New York will always bounce back. Reese Witherspoon actually did a piece where she was talking about the SNL thing. She said it was a really difficult time in New York City, but I was really proud to be there on stage with the firemen. Paul Simon, that's right, Paul Simon came out, man. Lauren Michaels, and I think they did an incredible job getting the show back on its feet. But yeah, man, that's right. Fuck, man, she stepped in, and Ben Stiller was the one who backed out of that. But what a huge moment as as an actor trying to go out there. That could have gone bad too, man. Yep. Where people have been like, "This is too soon. Get the fuck out of here." Maybe, and that's probably why Ben Stiller got out of there. But either way, those are the ones that I remember the most. And then those images of the people jumping off the building and out of the windows, man, will live with me forever, man.
I mean, I respected that move. I know they were scared and shit, and it's a fucked up situation, but they decided that they were going to fucking end it the way they wanted to. I mean, obviously, provided their opportunity or their options. Like they're like, fuck this, I'm not going to burn to death. It's a very brave thing to do, to jump from that fire up, fire or otherwise. Like, I don't know how I would react in that situation. I'm sure my brain would just take over and do something. But
yeah, I don't either, man.
I mean, I've been in gunfights, and it's like stuff moves in slow motion, to be honest. I think your adrenaline pumps so hard that everything slows down a little bit. You're fucking, you tend to get a little tunnel vision, so you see things like very clearly, like from very far away. It's really interesting. I don't know if any fucking studies have ever been done on what it's like in that situation, but it was pretty wild.
Yeah, man, pretty wild indeed. And again, this is a bonus episode today. We don't have sponsors or anything like that. We just thought we would come on and chat about it. We got so many messages, and we're here, and we're in Austin, and we have a beautiful new studio. We're like, let's just come in. Let's just come in and do a show and kind of hang out and talk about our memories about it. We do have a Drinkin Bro of the week, as always, though. We didn't feel it would be appropriate to have sponsors, to be honest with you. Drinkin Bro of the week, submitted by Charles Hendo from North Carolina. He's been a Drinkin Bro for only a couple months, but he's nominating Detective Ryan Hendricks. Says Ryan served in the United States Marine Corps and then started his career at the Henderson County Sheriff Division. He worked the roads and SWAT on 9/10, 2020, which was yesterday. He was killed in the line of duty. He was getting married next month and had 2 small children. He was a great fucking guy who was always there for his brothers in the community. And anyone who knew him, he will always live in their hearts forever. Cheers, guys. Cheers. Shit, that sucks, man. We get a lot of these, and we never mind reading them, by the way. So feel free to submit them. You can submit at drinkinbros.com for Drinkin Bro of the Week, and we read them live on air, so we never know what they are. That way, it's a fresh story, and no matter what it is, we can't pick through them and choose and decide. Whatever comes in, comes in. And unfortunately, there's a lot of stories about first responders getting killed in the line of duty, and it's shit, man. I mean, especially on a day like today on 9/11, where you're like, man, look back at the guys, all the first responders in New York City during that moment. Like, god damn, man. And you know, you say it all the time on the show. It's like, yeah, is there a few bad people, a few bad cops out there? Sure. There's a few bad people in every fucking line of work that you do anywhere in the world. But remember the times like 9/11, where these guys literally put everything on the line and either ran up the stairs or ran into the towers or went to go pick people out of the rubble and try to save people. And then ask yourself if you really hate the fucking police and you want to throw rocks and piss and shit at them and stuff like that. Because, man, this is a thankless job. And again, like this Drinkin Bro of the Week, if he doesn't submit this, I never hear this story, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many of them. It's hard to. It could be hard to keep up, but every single one of those stories deserves to be read.
Absolutely.
By the way, on that theory I have about the Middle East with Trump, so the number 2 GDP per capita country in the Middle East is UAE, and number 4 is Bahrain. Number 1 is Qatar. We're already friends with them. Number 3 is Kuwait, and number 5 is the next target, Saudi Arabia.
Gotcha.
So I think
is that where you think the next one goes?
I think I might be right about this. It'll be interesting over the next couple of months to see what happens with that. But it makes sense and it's exactly what he should do.
Yeah, and if you look at it, because if he is able to have 8 years in there to try to complete this cycle, that would be a big deal for the world, not just America, but for the world. And let's face it, nobody's done more business with those guys than Trump, you know?
Yeah.
Fuck. A lot of that money comes from them. A lot of financing from Hollywood films comes from those guys too, man. A lot of people don't know it. But it would be spectacular. We'll see what happens in the upcoming election here. Either way, we're glad that you tuned in with us today. This is a bonus episode, so we're just going to drop the audio immediately. And if you want to see the video, you can subscribe to Drinkin Bros podcast on YouTube. And as always, go to iTunes, rate the show a 5-star, and leave us a quick review. It helps keep us on the top of the charts. The same way we have been for close to 5 years. We've been in the top 100 shows for close to 5 years at this point. And we are unbelievably grateful to you. And we are unbelievably grateful to the brave men and women who were in 9/11, all the first responders, and in Pennsylvania and at the Pentagon. And yeah, man, I appreciate your time today, D'Anthony, and coming in. For D'Anthony Holloway, I am Ross Patterson. We are the Drinkin Bros. Good night, everyone.